your songs?
No, not really.
Bet you do.
I've got past getting angry. I think when you look at it, the justice of it, you know, in the beginning you think, you come down from Liverpool, you don't know what songs are. You get in with a publisher and he's good for you and everything, and you get successful. And if you don't happen to know how to get to own your songs and stuff, you can't really blame him for doing whatever deal he does, you know. So that's the way it was done with us, and other people ended up like, I don't own Yesterday, and I don't own Here, There and Everywhere, a lot of those songs. I think if you talk to the people in the street, do you know Paul McCartney doesn't own Yesterday? It's sort of, why, you know, what happened, you know? And, you know, when you think that I wrote it, recorded it, went and sold it, was the prime salesman for it and that, obviously I deserve to sort of own it. Since we became famous as kind of little green Liverpool lads coming down knowing nothing, there's been a bigger boom in music and more people being accessible to more people, particularly British people, you know, we're still doing great in the States and stuff. The kids these days have learned by our lessons, you know, they now know to ask for deals, and they now, which is nice. It means that, okay, we had to go through a bit of suffering to have that happen, but it's quite nice, really. If we had to go through it, I'm glad that at least it paved the way for a bunch of other people who now, when they go and publish a song, will say, hey, I want a decent deal on this. And they'll know about getting ripped off. We didn't even know there was such a thing as publishers. Literally, John and I thought that songs belonged to everyone. They were just in the air. I think a lot of people think like that. You know, just songs. You can't own a song, can you?
Written about John?
Yeah, a couple of them.
What do you think about all of those books? How do you think they portray you?
Oh, they don't. I know they portray me as the villain. You know, they portray me as the. What's happened with John and me is it's like once we were equal. Lennon and McCartney, while we were working together, it was kind of equal. We're considered pretty equal, really, because we were just producing equal amounts. But when the split of the Beatles happened, and when John moved away to New York, and the business stuff made us very bitchy with each other, you know, it's kind of... what happened is John then became the sort of tough one, the hard one with this experimental edge, and I became just the soppy one, just writing the odd ballad and stuff, you know. And John, of course, contributed to that by slagging me off and calling me Engelbert Humperdinck and stuff. Oh, thanks a lot. You know, which was at the time, it was like, oh, God, you know, who needs all this? But I didn't really want to come back at him and say, you know, oh, let me tell you about you, because I knew we'd just have a big media row, and I just wasn't up for that, you know. I'm really glad now that I didn't get into all that.
Don't let me down.
I'm reading the Ray Coleman book. And
it's the same kind of thing, you know.
It's a tendency because he's dead, he's now a genius, and you're alive and so you're not.
The day John was killed on the radio, I was listening to like everyone, listening to all the news bulletins, trying to find out. There was an interview with him saying, oh, I don't want to be a martyr. You know, don't worry, I'm not sticking myself up as a martyr. So, well, of course, you know, you can't help it. It's what's happened. He's sort of become a martyr. I don't think he would have liked that. I don't know. With somebody, see, what it is like somebody like Ray Coleman's got his opinion. You know, he's entitled. I sort of know why he thinks that. And why he thinks that I'm just sort of, you know, a songwriter and John was the genius. I know why it is. John was a very forceful personality. I mean, if we had arguments within the groups, I mean, I remember, like, George would turn to us again. He said, oh, he's won again, John's won again, just because he shouted loudest. And it often used to happen, you know, I'm not bloody doing it, oh, all right, then, all right. And, you know, so there's a lot of that going on. So you do tend to get forced into another position, you know, if somebody's, like, very loud and very... I mean, I'm not saying he was just loud. He was a wit. He was a funny man, John. He was a very clever guy. I loved him, you know. But somehow we got this kind of anti-position, you know. It all started, I didn't like Alan Klein. And they wanted to go with him, you know. I figured that was like a really bad thing to do and would lose us everything we'd gained. Well, later, that turned out to be true. You know, everyone got rid of Alan Klein and said thank you to me for it. But while I was trying to get rid of him, I had to go through all this craziness, and it seemed like I was pitted against them for my own gain. It was actually for the common good. Well, you know, I say, so you know.
Most of the books, though, even the ones like the Coleman one, where he is bending over backwards to make him sound as good a person as possible, by virtue of illustrating his incisive wit, show him as incredibly cruel to the people who he apparently loved most, like you and Yoko and
It's
Cynthia.
right, it's right. You know, that's the thing is, like, I mean, I don't really like to go on too much about someone who can't defend themselves and stuff, but that's the truth, you know, is that, like, none of us was the genius. None of us was. John and I did most of the writing, but, you know, George wrote something in The Way She Moves, and that's the one Sinatra does. Do you know what I mean? After all the Lennon McCartney... No, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the one Sinatra is. So even George was, like, writing great stuff. So I think we were all equal, and Ringo, although he didn't really contribute to the writing and stuff, he was a very equal force in it all. So that, I mean, what I'm saying is that John isn't just the wonderful picture that begins to get painted because he sort of gets martyred. He had his downside, that's for sure. Anyone who knew him knew that he could be really mean. But that doesn't mean to say he was a mean person. He could actually be very, very warm as well, you know, so sort of balanced it up. He was a bit of both, and I think I am too. I think what comes over, what they all say about in the books is me, I'm ruthlessly ambitious, you know, really, oh, sweep anything out of my way. Oh, really, you know, JR. But it's just not true. I mean, I'm not like that, you know, I mean, and if I am, John was every bit as ruthlessly ambitious as I am. But you can't help your image.
Hey.